Last day believer does not mean born yesterday. Grace and peace again, everybody. Welcome to Sabbath School Study Group. This is part number 3 of this 5-part series, Living Wisely. And in the context of where we are right now, which is the end of time, praise God, on the cusp of eternity, as we are walking by faith daily, just because this is the end of time, it does not mean we should be at the end of our wits. It does not mean that we should be at the end of our understanding of God's will. In fact, we have the benefit of our predecessors, both in the Old Testament and in the early part of the New Testament, which even continues today as we are alive now. We have the benefit of their experience to know not necessarily more than what they knew, but we know what they know and what we know. See, when we're reading Paul's admonition to the church at Ephesus, he tells them how to walk, right? And when he's telling them, what does he say? Here in verse 15 to 16, he says, "See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil." So on the one hand, in the first part of the verse, it's about walking wisely, right? Walking circumspectly, walking with an awareness, with an understanding, not necessarily a knowledge, but an understanding. But that understanding being, it's deeper and it's stronger because of the time that you're walking in. As these days are evil, because we are people of light, that light becomes more apparent. That light becomes more relevant. So in a world where people are trying to outsmart God, we're trying to AI God out of our reality, this artificial intelligence, as opposed to divine intelligence, this is what God says my people will have, and will have it in greater portion as the days get more evil, as time goes by. Because here in verse 17, it says, "Wherefore," in other words, because of what we've just talked about, "be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is." I'm so glad that wisdom is not knowing what everybody else knows. Wisdom is not knowing even what the world knows, or even some of what the world knows. That's knowledge. But wisdom is to know the will of God. I use the analogy a lot of times of leaving instructions for someone. And let's say it's something simple that a manager of a big factory, thousands of employees, one job, make sure you turn off the lights when you go. And he's written it in a book, and the book has 10,000 pages of all these rules and regulations. But the most important one is to remember to turn off the lights when you leave. And let's say you have like a CEO, and you got managers, and you got people in finance, and then you've got all these layers, and you have all the way around and down to maintenance and the repairman within the facility. And the only person to remember to turn out the lights is that guy that nobody even knows his name. He's not even salaried, he's hourly. But he does that job faithfully of turning out the lights. That is where we want to be as Christians. It's good to know the scriptures. It's good to know the prophecies. But it's better to do what's most important. And that's to know the will of God. Knowing everything that God intends from the beginning and from the past and in between, that can be beneficial. But it's never more important to know the will of God than to know that will right now. Because even if you understood what he wanted you to do 5 years ago, that's great, but that time has passed. Even if you want to know, or if you do know what God wants you to do a year from now, that's good. But all you have is right now. So if we can really focus on doing what God's will is and understanding that will in the moment, in that moment, it's more important than knowing everything he wants to do in the future, prophecy, or everything that he has done in the past, history, the power of the present. Because here in Ephesians 5:18-19, this is why we're encouraged to not be drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but to be filled with the Spirit. Filled with the Spirit for what sake? For the sake of knowing God's will. It's not necessarily something you can just get from a book. It's not necessarily something that you can just get from other believers or other like-minded individuals. They can encourage you in that walk. You can read books that lean and push in towards pushing you into the Bible. But ultimately, To know God's will, we must have his spirit, and more importantly, his spirit must have us, to where now there's this synergy between the mind of God and the mind of me, the mind of Chris, your mind, that we actually are living out what God is leaning in. And so this is the promise. This is my prayer. And I hope that we can see that this is where God wants us to be. And the experience to truly live wisely is, again, to simply follow him. And we do that when he is in us.